It's important to understand that failure is going to be an illusion as well. Now, there's 3 things that are happening when you think that you are failing at something that you have to understand. And once you understand this about failure, everything changes and success comes next. Hi guys, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Carmen. Welcome. If you want to manifest something, the universe wants you to manifest it too. And like Novell Goddard talks about in his book, The Power of Awareness, whatever it is that you desire, desires you too. Now, Novell also talks about in this book that the reality that we're living in is all an illusion. Nothing is real. It's all a matrix. This is kind of like a video game, basically. It's a giant simulated video game that we are all taking part of. None of this is actually real. There is an infinite number of realities all at the same time, known as parallel realities. Think of it as being like a giant television and you can only watch one channel at a time. You can't be watching 2 or 3 different channels at a time. But just because you're watching one channel doesn't mean that the other channels don't exist, right? So there are an infinite number of realities all co-occurring at the same time. And often when you want something, when you're desiring something, you have already co-created that reality with the universe. And so that's one of the reasons why we desire things, right? Because we already have it in another reality. We just can't see it. We can't feel it. To find out more information about this concept, check out my video, What You Want Wants You To, where I go much more into detail and into depth about this concept. So check it out. I'll put a link to that video below in the description box. But it's important to understand, in order to achieve that, in order to switch on to that reality, that channel, right, in which you have that thing that you want, that reality that you co-created with the universe, right, that you just can't see. It's important to understand that failure is going to be an illusion as well. Now, there's 3 things that are happening when you think that you are failing at something that you have to understand. And once you understand this about failure, everything changes and success comes next. The first thing you need to understand about failure is that it's often a test from the universe. You are being tested to see how you will react when you are not given exactly what you want, or when you're not able to switch on to that other reality as quickly as you would like, right? So what happens when we think that we are failing at something is, what's really happening is we are in the process of switching on to that other reality. Like I said, that other reality that already exists out there. You've already co-created it with the universe. So what's happening is failure is just a misperception. You're seeing things inaccurately. There has to be a switching, right? You're in one reality and you're not just going to instantaneously switch on to the other one overnight. If there's a big gap between where you're at and the thing that you want to have, you know, if there's a big gap between you and the thing you want to have, then there has to be some time to switch you on to that, right? And a lot of times people will perceive this as failure, that they're failing. But what's really happening is you are in the process of being switched over into a new reality. Doesn't that make sense? You can't get from point A to point B instantly. If you are in Africa and you want to go to Norway, there takes a little bit of time to travel in between Africa and Norway, correct? So think of it that way. Now, another thing with failure is that a lot of times it's a test. So not only are you in the process of being switched over onto that reality, but the universe is testing you to see what your reaction is too. The universe wants to see, how are you perceiving this switching over? What is your perception of it? Do you see it as a failure? Do you see it as a process? Do you see it as some sort of growth? The number one reason we come down onto this planet and we incarnate onto this planet is for growth. That's right. That is the number one reason for personal growth. The universe always is testing you to see if you are growing. So the universe wants to see what is your perception of this failure? What's really happening is you are in the process of being switched over onto another reality, right? But if you see it as a failure, then you didn't pass the test, because the universe doesn't want you to see it that way. So don't fail the test, right? The universe wants you to see it differently. So when you understand this and you tell the universe that you understand the switching process, that it does take a little bit of time, then that's going to be the first thing that changes everything. The second thing is, like I said, understanding that the universe is always trying to test us to see if we are growing. If we are growing, then we have succeeded. Letting the universe know that you have grown from this experience. What is it that you have learned? Remember, it's not a failure because you're in the process of being switched over. But there has been something that you have learned from this experience, right? Because in your mind, you see it as a failure. What have you learned? What has helped you to grow from this experience? You let the universe know that, oh, okay, this was a great thing that happened because I learned this about myself, and I learned that, and I learned that in the future, I'm gonna do it this way, and I'm going to go easier on myself. Find the things that you have grown from in every experience, even if it is in your mind a failure. You haven't really failed because there has been growth that has occurred, right? There's been inward growth. There's been inward development. For every tricky, difficult situation that you've been in, there has been something that you've learned. And understanding this process changes everything, because like I said, a lot of times the universe is trying to test you and wants to see that you have grown from this situation. If the universe can see that you have grown from this situation, then often it will give you what exactly it is that you want. For every success that people have, there's always a failure. Failure is always the first step to succeeding. It's the next step to succeeding, right? The first step to succeeding is failing, and the second step is succeeding. You can't have one without the other. The universe often is going to test you to see. It's going to give you that delayed time before it switches you over onto the other reality, right? It's testing you. It wants to see what your reaction is. Are you going to perceive it to be a failure? Or are you going to see it as growth? That this is something that happened that you learned from. You grew from this experience. And if you can do that, in addition to understanding that you are in the process of being switched over, then this will expedite the process, and the universe often will give you what you want even quicker, right? What happens is that time that it takes to kind of switch you over onto that new reality, that process gets expedited, right? Because the universe is like, aha, pass the test. You learned exactly what you needed to from this experience. You passed the test, boom. Now you're on to that new reality. And it will expedite you to the front of the class, basically. You will become the A student in class. You will become the student in class that all the other students in the class are jealous of and want to be like you, right? You'll be like the valedictorian of your class, the top student, because you are going to be expediting the process. You're going to be doing the number one thing that the universe wants you to do, which is growing. It's kind of like a cheat code, basically. It's kind of like a way to cheat your way through life. The universe will see that within you, that you are, you're passing every test. You're the A student. You're at the front of the class. And then suddenly you're not going to have as many challenges that other students at the back of the class are having. So think of the Earth as kind of like a university, right? Like I said, it's all an illusion. It's all just a university that has been set up for us so that we will have the maximum amount of growth possible. So think about it, right? The students at the back of the class, the students that are getting the C's, the D's, and the F's, They're going to have more difficult homework assignments and extra credit assignments being sent their way because they need to catch up to the A students, right? If you're an A student and you keep passing these tests every time something difficult gets thrown at your way and you don't see it as a failure, but you see it as a growth opportunity, it was a way for you to grow that whole time you were just being tested, you're going to be the A student. You're going to be at the front of the class. You're not going to have to do as much extra credit. You won't have to sit with a tutor, to catch up and learn these things because you're at the front of the class. Doesn't that make sense? Now, another thing that will help you to expedite the process of succeeding is seeing failure as a protection mechanism, right? So sometimes we can get very caught up on the specifics. Like I said, we are always in co-creation with the universe. So if there's something that we want, it's because we have co-created that vision. We have co-created that reality with the universe. But sometimes people can get caught up on the specifics of that reality. They get very, very tied to, well, it has to be this specific house, I want to manifest a beautiful brand new home, but it has to be this specific home. Or I want to manifest love and, a family, but it has to be with this specific person. So sometimes we can be caught up on the specifics. And in those situations, failure then is kind of like a block. We're being blocked off because there's something better, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to get what you want, right? You're going to get what you want, but the version of that you want is not as good as the version of that thing that the universe wants you to have or has created for you. And so an example of this would be a few years ago when I was trying to buy a house, I was putting in all these offers for my house and kept getting blocked off and nothing would ever work out. I'd put in an offer and then another person would outbid me on the house. The universe wanted me to have a house because I wanted to own a house, but I was very focused on the specifics. Like, oh, it has to be this specific house, right? But what was happening was that I was being blocked off from those houses that I would put bids on because the universe had something better in mind for me, right? The universe still wanted me to have a house, but it wanted me to have a better house than the ones that I was putting bids on. So I was being blocked off from having those homes because there was something better for me around the corner. And that's exactly what happened. What ended up happening was I ended up purchasing a home that was so much better than the houses that I wanted to purchase at the time. I ended up purchasing a home that was better in terms of location, more centrally located to work and family. And I ended up purchasing a home that was brand new. The other homes that I had put bids on were not new, but this home was brand new and I got to customize it to everything that I wanted. And it was in a better location. There were so many better things about this house that if I had ended up with one of those other houses that I had put a bid on, that I would have missed out on this house that is just so much better than those houses. I would have ended up blocking myself off from something that was so much better for me in the end. So that's another thing that will happen with the universe. So we can't see it as a failure. We have to see it as we are being protected because there's a better version of it out there for you that you cannot see yourself. The universe can see it, but you can't. So once you see things differently in this light, then everything changes and you can expedite the process of success. You can make it faster. You can make your manifestations happen a lot quicker. That is the key to doing it down on this university known as Earth. So anyways, let me know in the comments below what it is you are trying to manifest right now and what are the blocks or what you perceive to be failures that you've come across in the process. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, hit the like button and share it with other people. It helps get this information out there. When you do that, we want to help as many people as we can. And I would love to have you subscribe and to become part of the family, get more access to videos like this in the future. And if you want to find out more information about me, you can head on over to my website, starsalignwithcarmen.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.